Hi, I'm Casey Hanson. I'm the Deputy Director with Kids Win Missouri, and today this is our Telling Your Story for Advocacy workshop. So this is really to help you prep for Child Advocacy Day and how you can tell your story in a compelling way to advocate for policies that support children and families. So first of all, we'd like to thank all of our sponsors for the 2025 Child Advocacy Day. We have Children's Trust Fund, FACT, Missouri After School Network, and Children's Services Fund of St. Louis County, who are all Champion of Children sponsors. And then all of these gold and silver level sponsors on your screen. So many of these organizations have been supporting this event and keeping it free for the last 43 years. So we wanted to make sure we thank all of them off tops. And if you are not registered for Child Advocacy Day, please take a chance today. Get registered. Join us on April 2nd. This is a free event, brings together hundreds of advocates from all around the state to let our legislators know that children are the priority in our state and to make sure that they're keeping that in mind in Jefferson City. So use the QR code, get registered today, and we hope to see you on April 2nd. A couple of the learning objectives for this workshop is really just helping you understand why storytelling matters for Advocacy Day, spending some time learning how to craft your story in a compelling way for advocacy. And then I'm going to give you some tools and questions you can use to practice storytelling with partners to build your confidence and prepare for Child Advocacy Day. So why storytelling? Why is storytelling so powerful for advocacy? Well, stories create emotional connection, and stories really help policymakers and people remember things better than if they just hear the facts or the data alone. Stories also help give a face to some of the complex issues that policymakers deal with. And help to humanize some of the policy issues that they work with. So often in Jefferson City, they're looking at words in a bill or they're looking at numbers in a budget sheet, but telling stories and hearing the human impact really helps to humanize some of the decisions that they're making. Stories also inspire people to act. So I can't tell you how many times I've heard legislators talk about filing legislation based on a story that they heard from someone in their district about something that they were experiencing. So stories are really powerful in that they can drive humans to act. Now, I like to use this theory around storytelling and creating compelling stories in a public narrative developed by Marshall Gans. And this is just a simple structure that you can find a lot more information and research videos that he's done on it, but it's just a simple structure that I like to use when I think about putting together a story for advocacy. So it has three components: the story of self, which is really focused on our call to leadership, our purpose in advocating, the story of now, which is all about strategy and driving to action through an urgent ask, and the story of us, which is really bringing together community and connecting shared values and experiences with the issue that you're advocating on. So with the story of self, the goal is really all about sharing your lived experiences and perspectives. So whether you're a parent who struggles to find childcare and go to work because you can't find childcare when you need it, or if you have it, you struggle to afford it, or maybe you're a family who gets coverage for your children through Medicaid and you've had issues getting access to the system or something of that nature. It could be a myriad of things that drive us into action, but the goal with Story of Self is really how whatever you're advocating about connects to your personal experience. And the focus is on making it personal. So for me, I struggled to find childcare when I had my first child. And then when we had a second baby and we were going to have two in childcare at one time, it became a whole other set of challenges for our family living in a new market. So that is one thing I always think about when I'm advocating for childcare, is just my lived experiences with how challenging it was, and knowing if I have the resources I have and I can't do it, it's a lot harder for families who may be in more difficult situations. So a couple of tips: you want to be vulnerable, but you want to be focused. Remember, when you're in the Capitol, you're not going to have time to download your whole life story for legislators. So thinking about how you can be vulnerable, make that personal connection, but also stay focused, and also keeping it concise to stay on that same frame. So again, you're not going to get to go into all the little details and nuances of your story, but thinking of how you can frame it up into a sentence or two or a minute or so, just to make that connection. The second component is the story of us, and really connecting that personal story or experience you have into the broader community, the broader us, if you will. So take that experience, my experience having trouble finding childcare, and I can connect that to the broader Missouri community. I know that I have trouble finding childcare, but when I talk to all my friends and neighbors, they're having the same issues. And in fact, there's new data to show that 97% of Missouri is a childcare desert when it comes to infant and toddler childcare. So that's another thing when you're creating that us and pulling your personal story into the broader picture. You can also pull in data. It's a great opportunity to do that and pull in some of those facts and figures that you may have that also align and validate what your personal experience has been. It's also a way to pull your legislator in, because you can talk about that issue in the context of your community, which of course your legislator is part of, or in the broader state of Missouri, which of course encompasses everybody. So framing whatever you're experiencing as a shared experience, it's not just me and my family, it's our neighbors, our friends, all of those things. And also thinking about including those facts or data that can support your issue. And then the final piece of this three-legged structure is the story of now and why action is needed, and really driving action through creating urgency. So the goal with the story of now is driving action. Why is the issue important now? And why is action required now? So I might say for childcare, we need to act now to invest in childcare because our children can't wait. And we want Missouri to have a thriving economy where parents can choose to go to work and know that they can afford childcare and they have a safe place to send their children. Also thinking about what is your ask. So a lot of times when you're going into the Capitol, you have a short amount of time and your legislator is going to want to know, what is your ask? So sometimes this may be lobbying, asking about a specific bill. We want you to support XYZ bill, or we want you to vote against this bill, and this is why. Some of you might not feel comfortable with that direct lobbying, so you can make those broader statements. We just want to remind you to continue to invest in childcare, or continue to support policies that support childcare and child well-being in Missouri. You kind of need to make that decision. So you do want to be specific though. Even if you can't do specific lobbying, you want to try to leave them there with a specific ask. You might even ask them something like, would you mind coming back and visiting my childcare? Or can we meet together in the community to talk about this issue at a later time? So something that's going to get their attention, keep them engaged. And if you have that direct ask on a bill, make sure you do that to drive the urgency and the action. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about forming all of this into your elevator speech. So thinking through those questions to develop your story of self, making it personal, your story of us, connecting that personal experience and issue into a broader community, and the story of now, driving action. We're going to condense that all into an elevator speech. So this is a term that we use. An elevator speech is really thinking about you're in the Capitol, you might get in the elevator with a legislator, and you have until that elevator reaches the next 2 floors to make your case to them. So you want to think about how you can deliver your message in 90 seconds or less is what we typically try to go to. So some tips for elevator speech, keeping it under 90 seconds. And you can do this by practicing, rehearsing. So think through story of self, story of us, story of now, jot down some notes, write them out, and then practice saying it. You know, it's not a test. You're not often going to be in the Capitol and someone's going to get out a timer and say, okay, you have 90 seconds. But getting that practice and doing it over and over again is just going to make you better at delivering the message. And you can always add on. So you have that initial pitch, but they might ask questions. That gives you an opportunity to expand on your thoughts a little bit more. Stay conversational, try to be natural. That's also why you want to practice it. So you get that opportunity to really not feel so uptight or nervous when you're speaking, but it comes out a little naturally. Make sure you're connecting to the audience. So if you want to do some homework in advance, you can look up your legislators at house.mo.gov or senate.mo.gov and really learn some things about their background and their bio that might help you make that connection, but also just think about it in the conversation. You might ask them, do you have children? Do you have grandchildren? Those kinds of things to really try to pull them into the issue that you're trying to talk to them about. Try to keep it focused on one specific issue or one specific ask. So of course, we're all there. Child Advocacy Day, children are our single priority that day, but you might even want to talk about just one issue. You might want to talk about childcare or child health or whatever it is, child welfare. Feel free to do that, but the more you can make it focused, the more productive that time is going to be with your legislator. And then finally, think about ending with a question to engage and inspire the engagement from them. So whether that be, hey, can we meet in the district sometime? Or can you come tour my childcare center? That's one way to do it, or asking for their support on a specific bill. So a reminder, if you haven't already, register for Child Advocacy Day. We're really looking forward to seeing you all on April 2nd. I hope this was a helpful, short little training to get you ready to be able to tell your story. As always, reach out if you have any questions. The Kids Win team is always happy to help. Go to kidswinmissouri.org about our team to find all of our email addresses. Thanks a lot for attending today. Bye.